I'm Nancy Smith, and I'm the founding director here at Great Arizona Puppet Theater. Ken Bonar and I started Great Arizona Puppet Theater in 1983. We had been puppeteers before in Florida, but we came back to Arizona and started Great Arizona Puppet Theater here. We just kind of melded together as a wonderful team, his artistic skill being mostly as a visual artist and mine as a theater artist, and then the two of us together combined our forces. I mean, when we first started, here I am with a graduate degree, and I was waiting tables, and Kenny and I both got jobs at night. He was loading trucks, on a dock worker, loading trucks. I was waiting tables at night, and we had decided we would get night jobs so that if we did get a puppet show during the day, we'd be able to go and do it. We had other jobs to help us until the point that we actually opened our first theater in Phoenix, which was the old firehouse. I was looking around and I saw this empty fire station. It was on 3rd Street, just south of Indian School. It was kind of boarded up, nothing was going on with it, so I decided to call around, and I found out who owned it. And we had a group of people that would come every Friday night, even if they'd already seen the show, and bring their families back and see it again and again. Yeah, and some of those people are still involved with our company, grandkids, I think we weren't there that long because the economy hit a nosedive, and our landlord, the architect, could no longer afford his big fancy office, so he wanted ours back. So we lost our lease. I think we were only there maybe 3 or 4 years. That's the way it is with nonprofits, is you can sometimes find cheap property until somebody else has a use for it, or the real estate market all of a sudden goes haywire and you can't afford it. We realized that when we left the firehouse, and we had started looking for a place to buy then. Kenny and I, first of all, decided we wanted to do Peter Pan, because he really wanted to make a pirate ship and all that. So we started out making the puppets for Peter Pan, and then we said, wait a minute, and they were marionettes too, the ones with the strings. And we said, wait a minute, there's only 2 of us, and we're not going to be able to work all these. So we said, back up, okay, what can we do, the 2 of us? And we decided to do Little Red Riding Hood, go back to classic stories. And I started being a theater student. My first inclination was to look for a script, because that's what you always did. And I couldn't find a script I liked, or one that would be suitable for puppets. So I said, well, I'll just write my own. And then there was like, oh, it seems like there should be a song here. Oh, I guess I'll just write my own. And that's how I started writing things for our shows. Our idea too with doing puppets is like, we're not just going to do a show with puppets. We want to do something that puppets can do especially well. So when you're talking about Little Red Riding Hood, that has a wolf as a main character, great for puppets, because you don't have a person who's pretending to be a wolf or in a wolf costume. You have a wolf who is a wolf. He's a puppet, and that's exactly what he is. So it's really good at the archetypal things. I was paying my bills at home and kind of looking at my water bill, and I noticed that Desert Botanical Garden had an education department, and I thought, I'll call them up. And so I called them up and I said, we're thinking about doing a puppet show about the desert, and we're wondering if you would help us with that. And the woman who answered the phone said, we wanted to do a puppet show and we didn't know how. I asked questions like, what do you think is important that people know? What do you think we should really focus on? And of course, the saguaro is our iconic cactus here in Arizona things, and I came up with some ideas and came back and talked to her about it. I said, let's go with this concept as the saguaro as a hotel in the desert. So Kenny got all excited about it and made a giant grandpa saguaro cactus, and then we came up with the idea that there's a little baby saguaro, Sammy. It's cute, it's funny, everybody learned something from it. It's a really good show. After we did it, Desert Botanical Garden people came out and watched it, and they said, oh, we want this to be our educational outreach program. So we did it for them for years and years. We have never stopped doing that show. And so it's almost as old as Great Arizona Puppet Theater is. What we want to do with an educational show, like Hotel Saguaro, for example, is we want the people to be interested in it, and we want them to care. Plants and animals have adapted to live in the desert, and people have to too. And so that was kind of our idea for Zoner in the Drip. And we started doing that for Mesa Water Department way too many years ago. We started doing it while we were still at the firehouse and are still doing it today. We also have some puppets that we made at the request of Craniofacial Foundation of Arizona. That's for kids that are born with something different about their faces, and they found that very often those children were teased in schools, and so they wanted us to come up with a puppet show to help other children understand why some people might look different and how they could still be a good friend. We knew we wanted to buy a place because we didn't like getting kicked out of places and constantly looking for a place that might be just right. And one day I drove by this building, it was all boarded up at the time, and I stopped and I got out and I kind of stood in front of the building and looked over to what was still a big dirt lot where the Japanese Friendship Garden is now, but the park was there, and thought, I think this is it. It's currently being leased to the Arizona Historical Society, and they're just using it for storage, and their rent was ridiculously cheap, like $350 a year or something like that. And I said, well, we would like that deal, but we would actually fix it up and do something with it. Nobody else can lease it, but if somebody wants to buy it, it could be up for sale. And I said, okay, well, we want to buy it. And he said, okay, put that in writing. And I did. It was in horrible shape. It really was. It took 3 years of renovation just to open up this part of the building, another 3 years to fix up the other part, and then other little bits and pieces, like we found out this historic painting was here, so we got some funding to redo that. One of our goals in restoring this building is to really preserve it, and obviously we had to reuse it, so what we were actually doing is called an adaptive reuse of a historic building, but we tried to keep the colors and the decor and all of that pretty much historic as it was. And the historic preservation people have been really good to us. We got an award for the preservation of this building too. We are open 5 days a week, year-round, to families. So that means that children are coming in and seeing this historic building where they're not ordinarily getting a chance to see all of that. My daughter, Laura, who was 8 years old and had grown up, with puppets, said one time, when do I get to be in a puppet show? And I said, 8 years old, well, that's pretty old. I said, well, I guess maybe you could be in a puppet show with me this summer. I said, what show would you like to do? And she said, Cinderella. And I had never wanted to do Cinderella because I figured she was kind of helpless, waiting, all these problems and just waiting for some man to come along and save her, and I did not like that. So I said, okay, well, we can do Cinderella, but we have to make it so that she really wants to make something of herself, and she doesn't like the prince just because he's a prince. Really really worked on it to make sure we were doing a really good show. After she did it for so many years, Gwen was my other daughter, was like, I want to do what my older sister is doing. We received the Unima citation for excellence in puppetry for Cinderella, and it still is one of our most popular shows. We still enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun, and the audience always has a great time. It's great. We finally did Peter Pan after so many years. So we built a fantastic production of Peter Pan that actually is 3 parts. Actually, it was Gwen and I who decided that we should do Peter Pan again. Kenny and I had always wanted to do it, but we were always reading books at night, and she would read one page and I would read another page, and that way, she was learning how to read and everything. She's just a little kid. And we read one of the chapters from Barry's original Peter Pan book and thought, that would make a really good puppet show. It was very exciting and a lot of fun. The Phoenix Symphony was doing this program with Phoenix Theater, a nice Christmas program at Symphony Hall, and they had found an adaptation of A Christmas Carol that was a lot of music for the symphony to play and actors and dancers, and then they wanted to make the ghosts puppets, giant puppets. So there was an actor, a wonderful actor who played Scrooge, and we made Marley and the other ghosts who visit Scrooge great big puppets. Kenny did sketches and everything, and we took him to the symphony, and they okayed him, and then we built everything here, and then also used our puppeteers and hired a couple extra people to help us inhabit those puppets on the stage. It was a lot of fun. Well, the future of the Great Arizona Puppet Theater, I think, is looking great. People can help Great Arizona Puppet Theater, of course, with donations of money, but also with coming in and spreading the word, too. Come in and see the shows. When we bring in these amazing guest artists, we want people to come in and be able to see what we see that's so wonderful about these things. And also to let their friends know about it, bring people in. Like I said before, people are bringing their children and their grandchildren. Of course, we have shows for adults too, and it's great to come in and see that, and come in with an open mind, and with the question in your mind is, what is this? And just be open to what the world of puppetry can offer you, and it's quite a lot.
So hungry, I'm looking for something good to eat. Just had my breakfast, I had a meal complete. Pancakes with butter and golden syrup.